Okay, so hello and welcome. We are now looking at the properties of the gradient, right? So you've now seen y equals mx or y equals ax, and you've seen that the power here in x is to the power of 1, right? And when you see that, you know that we are dealing with a linear function or a line, also called a straight line. Now, very importantly, people, let's talk about these properties of the gradient. And you've now also seen when we looked at each of these functions, the bigger the number, the steeper the curve was. Okay, so the coefficient of x gives us an idea of slope, right? It's called gradient. It's also called the slope. It's also called the steepness. Okay, it's also called the inclination. Okay, now let's talk about a few different things about the gradient. You are well aware, you should be well aware of the following, right? I'm just setting up a few sets of axes here that we can work from. And we'll talk about a few different lines. Now remember, this is at the origin. This point here is 0 and 0, and these are considered the coordinate plane. Let's talk about different lines, right? Let's talk about different lines. So if I give you a line like this, a straight line like that, what can you tell me about its gradient? Well, if it's a horizontal line, it has no steepness. So here we will say m equals 0, where m represents the gradient, right? M represents the gradient or the slope or the coefficient of x in the equation, y equals mx. When you have a line that looks like this, oops, completely horizontal, completely vertical. So this is a horizontal line with zero gradient. The gradient of this line is infinity because it's very steep, okay? And this meets at a right angle. It meets at 90 degrees. And this meets at 90 degrees with the y-axis. Here it meets at 90 degrees with the x-axis. This line over here, this horizontal line has no steepness. This vertical line is super steep, incredibly steep, very, very steep. So steep that we say its gradient is actually infinity. In analytical geometry, it will become clearer what we mean over here. Let's talk about a line like this. When a line looks like that, we say that its gradient is positive. Its gradient m is positive, okay? And when we look at a line like this that slopes to the left, we say that this line has a gradient that is negative. M is negative, okay? Right. Now, I very quickly want to show you, I want to give you an online exercise or just an exercise in video that we will do in the next video. So there's a summary. This is positive gradient, this is a negative gradient. Here the gradient is 0 because it's flat, it's completely horizontal. Here the gradient is infinity. Okay. And remember, the steeper the line, so for example, if I gave you another line, say this line has a larger gradient than the red line. So the violet line has a larger gradient than the red line. Both gradients are positive, but this one is steeper. Okay, the purple graph is steeper than the red graph over here. Here it's negative. Okay, right, and I could draw another one that I could make steeper. So that's a summary of the key properties of the gradients. And remember, the gradient is represented by the number in front of x in the equation of a straight line. And when you look at each of these, you also saw that the bigger the number in front of x, the steeper that graph was. Okay.